So we're going to go for a little hike below Ke'e, up around the edge of the heiau. We're just past Limahuli on Kauai, and we're going to have a presentation given to us by Levon Ohai, who's a teacher in Hawaiian studies and gives instruction on medicinal plant uses and healthcare and Hawaiian traditions and a lot of other stuff. So I think you'll probably enjoy this little hike, and we'll get to look at a few medicinal plants and hear some of his experiences and what he's learned from his family.
I'm born and raised here on Kauai. I learned about the herbs from my tutu, or my grandparents. They're the ones who usually teach the traditions. And I found that through the years, most of the traditions about plants and about medicine are just about the same wherever you go in different parts of the world. The old people know about the same plants that you know about, just that it's called by a different name. Well, that's a little bit about where I come from, why I'm here. And today's a beautiful day here at Ke'e, and I'm very lucky that it's about almost the end of summer, and today is a very good day for walking and for studying herbs. This herb here, as was taught to me, is called the pohinahina. And pohinahina was used as a medicinal herb, one of the many medicinal herbs that we have here in Hawaii. And the old Hawaiians, those who practiced, the practitioners, they used it for any problems with the skin, itch, sores, and we use it directly, either using the blood of the herb or the juice, as people call it today. My grandparents called it the blood of the plant. And that was either squeezed on you, got you well, and that's what we used it for. It's still in use by maybe a few of us today, but it still grows profusely, especially down at the beach. If you see it being grown as a hedge or as a lawn covering, then it was transplanted. It usually grows profusely down at the beach. It loves sand. It loves to be in a maybe semi-arid area with little or no water. But it's a survivor, like most of the herbs are. As we continue today with the herbs, we'll talk a little bit more about the philosophy of the plants, what our true beliefs are with the herbs. Okay, here we are. We're still on the North Shore of Kauai at Ke'e Beach, just a little further on the trail. And I brought back Maklachi here in Kauika to point out this herb that lives right on this rock. It's a natural environment, again close to the beach. This herb usually lives in the swamps, but here at the beach they grow all over the place. It's called the ahuava. The ahuava has a flower head or a seed head. We use it and we powder it to remove lice from the scalp. And Hawaiians used it for centuries ago, and we still use it today by those who still kind of hold on to the traditional ways. It's sort of like a reed. If you remove it, if you pull it out, and you remove the bottom part of it, the root system, part of it is white, and then the green part. Well, the white part is what the Hawaiians use, what we still use today, to remove, we call it ea, or thrush or colic from the mouth. It's that white coating that's on the tongue. And all you need to do is kind of chew it. Very delicious, like chocolate chip cookies. All you need to do is chew on it until you've chewed all of the white part. Maybe 2 or 3 will do the trick. It'll remove all of the colic or the thrush or that white coating that comes with a cold from your tongue. And it'll get rid of your cold and you'll be better again. At one time on the island, here on the island and on every island, it grew profusely. But slowly when the plantations came, our plantation economy developed, they slowly removed all of these plants that grew a lot in the swampy areas of our land. So they filled it out, they planted sugarcane, they planted pineapple, and so it all disappeared. Today you'll find it in places like this. We're a bit more going into the heiau area of Ke'e, at the end of, again, the beach here on Kauai. This area is just filled with different herbs. This herb that we're interested in right now, it's a vine, and you can see it growing profusely. It's a creeper, and so it loves to live off of other plants. It's an air plant. It doesn't have, if you look very carefully, it doesn't have any leaves, it doesn't have any flowers, and it doesn't have any roots. And so when the Hawaiians saw this plant, through the revelations and through partly cognitive and partly intuitive learning, and whatever was handed down to them by the practitioners, they found that this plant was very good to strengthen or energize the blood, to build the immune system, as we call it today, to build a lot of resistance. It also cleanses the blood, and we use it specifically for women who are pregnant. They're going through the pregnancy phase. It is very good for birth pains, for labor pains, and it also strengthens the fetus. And when the infant is born, it enhances its strength and the strength of the mother. And so we used it for many, many years. It's still being used today by those who are ma'a, or familiar with this vine. We use it today. My dad and 7 more of his brothers and sisters were all born. We didn't have any hospitals then, so they were born at home. And my grandfather, or my tutu, cared for my grandmother. And this was the herb that was used. So there were no birth pains. If they had a little birth pains, it was just a very little amount. and we had no complications, probably due to the diet that they adhere to. If you look at it in the wild, you can see up close the kauno'oa has little white seeds. This plant is very independent. It's very friendly. You can come up to it, you can speak to it, it'll be your friend, but you'll have a very difficult time transplanting this plant down where civilization is. It's very difficult to grow somewhere else. You need to bring in another plant so it'll grow on it, and then you can transplant it. Otherwise, you can take the seeds and throw it out, it won't grow. It won't grow. And so once again, our famous and treasured kauno'oa. Okay, here we are again. We're kind of ascending the heiau area. We're still on the north shore of Kauai, the end of the road on the north shore, Ke'e Beach area. And again, the herb that we're interested in right now from off the trail is called ala ala vainui. And these little plants that you see on this boulder is the ala ala vainui. They have a going relationship with the green moss that you see on the boulder. Hawaiians call this moss the limukele. And so every time it rains and it's very moist, the limukele, or this moss that grows off of old tree trunks in the forest and big boulders, they absorb all of the moisture, all of the water, and then they keep it, and that's why they're always green, almost all year round. And so they have a contract negotiation with the ala ala vainui. The ala ala vainui works with the limukele. It lives off and implants itself in the limukele. And so that's why they work together, and they're always green, and they grow bigger or higher or taller than this. You may see some plants that are a little, a little higher than others. They grow to maybe 12 to 14 to 18 inches in height. The reason why the native people, or the Hawaiians, are interested in this plant is because they call it a female plant. In other words, the medicinal properties that come from this plant were used to heal a woman if she, number one, miscarried, number two, couldn't have babies, and thirdly, if her menstrual cycle was irregular or wasn't there at all. And so the Hawaiians use this, the blood of the plant. You could either use it, the fresh raw blood or juice, or you could tea it with maybe a pint of water and a handful of of the ala ala vainui. What is interesting is if you should come across this plant and you felt the leaves are pretty small. They can become very dark green in color, but they're thick. It's like a miniature cactus, very thick. And in the leaves, they collect this blood or this water, and it's very thick. And that's where all of the medicinal properties are stored. And so, not many people use this plant today. For me, it was handed down. And that's why we're sharing it. Thanks to Doc McClatchy and Kawika. But if you use this plant maybe 3 times a day for a period of 6 weeks, 3 times a day, maybe a half of a glass, it will restore that which the female may have lost with complications, maybe diet, sometimes it goes as far as the genetics. This will strengthen usually the reproductive system of the female body. It also works well with the males. But then males, you know, they don't usually say, well, we're fine. But it also works with the males, you know. If they have any problems with sperm production or anything in that line dealing with reproduction or the reproductive process, this plant, which is one of the 4 plants we use dealing with reproduction, this plant is very, very, very strong and very good. We are not concerned with treatments. Today they talk a lot about treatments. We're concerned with healing and with cures. And so there is a cure for just about any disease if you look for it in some part of the world. And so this is a reason why we're here, to share with you some of this ancient, you know, traditional knowledge. Here at Ke'e Beach, we're on the same trail, just a little further up. Like I said, here at Ke'e, here at the heiau, there are a lot of different medicinal herbs. This is another one that we still, well, that my family still uses today. It's a bidens. Doc McClatchy and Kawika may know the full name of it, but they have several varieties of bidens. This one, the Hawaiians call it ko'oko'olau. And we use it specifically for diabetes and high blood pressure. Now, as you know, there are no cures for diabetes and high blood pressure. There may be treatments, but as I said previously, we're here to work with plants that heal or cure. And this one will heal you if you have problems with your blood pressure, whether it be a high blood pressure or low blood pressure. If you have problems with diabetes, I know there are 2 kinds. Well, regardless of what kind it is, as long as you have diabetes, this wonderful, miraculous warrior will heal you. We've been using it again for centuries. This plant grows on every island here in Hawaii. There may be plants like this going down the South Pacific, down the chain. I've never seen any out of Hawaii, but there may be plants, probably because you didn't go and, you know, hike up in the mountains of Tahiti or Tonga or Samoa. But this one is very precious. It also has, I'm looking around, but it also has a yellow flower. It looks like a miniature daisy. And it starts maybe in December, January, February. That's when it starts to flower. And that's when most of the plants, here in Hawaii anyway, are filled with flowers. When the plants flower, the Hawaiians call the plants that were flowering, and since we're talking about ko'oko'olau, that the plants were hapai, or pregnant. And the Polynesians believed that when a plant is hapai or pregnant, covered with flowers, before the seed comes, that plant was at its strongest, not at its weakest, because it had to take care of, you know, all of the nutrients had to go through the flowers and then later on to the seeds. And so it was at its best. And so that's when the Hawaiians, or my people, went out to gather either the flowers or the leaves or the part of the plant. When it was flowering, it was at its strongest. Today, a mother or a woman who is hapai or pregnant, supposed to be at her strongest. Her immune system should be high, no disease, and she, because of her diet, being prepared physically and emotionally for the young one that came. And so we also believe that plants are like human beings. The way they act or react, the nutrients that they have in their system. It's the same with plants. And so if we work together environmentally, and if you're a botanist or you love plants and you speak to the plants like we do, and people call you crazy, if you're dealing with plants or with medicine, as with Doc McClatchy and Kawika, we are what you would probably view as unorthodox. We're free in our thinking as far as what needs to be used. We don't follow a tradition of you need to use this, and this to get a cure. We're unorthodox in whatever medicines we use. We combine them to make up a healing drink. Right. Okay, here we are once again. We're on the same trail, Henry Road, K Beach, up at the heiau. And again, this is another plant, two of which you see here. These plants, especially the Hinahina Ku, Mekoko Ikapali. That's a pretty long name. But the Hawaiians used that name on this plant because it grew, most profusely from cliffs. You don't see it in the soil or planted in gardens. This plant is kind of aloof. It's friendly, and you may touch it and you may speak to it. But if you transplant it from one environment to the next, like you want to take it home, because it's pretty rare, and you want to plant it at home, maybe in your garden, you'll have a very difficult time growing this plant. It's very temperamental, it's very sensitive, and it doesn't take well to a new environment. It's like going from Kahala to Mayorite housing, or vice versa. This plant will say, "What, me? You're gonna transplant me? No way, cuz I'm dying." And this warrior would rather die, and is not afraid of death. He'd rather die and curl up than be transplanted. And so it's kind of aloof because it doesn't come in contact with we humans all the time. The only reason why this plant is in contact with us today is because it just happened to live again off of the cliff and right here. So we're blessed to be able to be this close to Hinahina Ku Mekoko Ikapali. A little bit about the name of this plant. Hinahina Ku is the name of this plant. Like, oh, my name is John Williams. Well, Hinahina Ku is the name of this plant. Mekoko means with blood. Ikapali means on the cliffs. So whenever the Hawaiians would see another friend or brother hike the cliffs and to pick or look for Hinahina, and because it lived off the cliffs, it was a very dangerous area, they'd always say, Hinahina Ku Mekoko Ikapali. If you don't watch yourself and be careful, you're going to slide and your blood will be on the cliffs. And that was instant death. And so to get this plant, those who really needed it had to go and always put their lives in danger. And so that's why the name, Mekoko Ikapali, with blood on the cliffs. The Hawaiians use this plant specifically for paralysis. Paralysis from heart problems, strokes, partial paralysis from accidents or disease. We never used it, or we never tried on paralysis that came with, infantile paralysis. We never did try it. Who knows? Maybe it would work. But from any other disease or illness, it always worked. And the most important part of the plant were the leaves. And you crushed it and you made either a tea from it, a handful to a pint, or you crushed it and just juiced it and drank the blood itself. It's pretty bitter, but the strength of the medicine is sometimes it's in the bitterness of the plant, or in the heat of the plant, like cayenne pepper. If it's really hot, then the strength of the medicine or the herb is in the taste of the plant. And it's the same with Hina ku Mekoko Ikapali. This is another plant that we're fortunate to have right here with us. And this is called akoko. Akoko in Hawaiian means blood. This is the second of 4 female plants that the Hawaiians use. And we use it today in my family. Not many people use it anymore. But the Hawaiians used to go out, they call it akoko because, I'm sorry, there's no sample for you to see, but the leaves would turn red, a dark red, and that's why they call this plant akoko. And they used it when young mothers or mothers-to-be had complications, once again. If they lost a child from miscarriage, if the fetus kind of sloughed off, again from miscarriage, irregular menstrual cycles, or none at all, or any kind of weakness about the reproductive system of the female or the male body. And this would always restore health and strength to that area. And so what they did was they picked every leaf that was red and they teed it. And they drank the tea about 3 times a day, 1 handful into a pint of water for about a week or 2, and then you'd see results. The Hawaiians didn't have the kind of diet that we have today. They lived off the land. Anything from the sea was good, and anything from the land was good. Sweet potatoes, breadfruit, kalo, luau, green leaves, ferns. And with the ocean, either they broiled their seafood or they ate it raw. And it's the same with all of the seaweeds in the ocean. They either ate it raw. And so the foods were simple, but they were very, very nutritious. And so that's what contributed to the health of the Polynesians with these herbs. Okay, here we are again. We're again up at the Heiau area and on the road, KA Beach area. And this plant that we're concerned with right now, another variety of herbs, is called Iwa. People call it the Maiden Hair. And today they use it for corsages with flowers to decorate the insides of homes, to congratulate people when they wear it with some flowers. And this grows profusely. These are the wild maiden hair, or the wild iwa iwa. As you notice, they're very beautiful. And being that it's summer, during the winter months, they grow profusely up in the mountains, and they love to grow out of rocks that bleed with fresh water. And that's why these are here. You know, some of the remnants that still survive the summer weather or the summer heat. And so the Hawaiians used to collect these for decorative purposes and also for medicine. As far as medicine is concerned, this was used in tea form for any kind of respiratory illness, asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, emphysema if you smoke the paka or the tobacco. But it's a very mild tea. It's not bitter at all, but it's very powerful. It speaks softly, but it carries a big stick. I don't know who said that, maybe Roosevelt or somebody. But the Hawaiians have used this for centuries. And we still use it today for those who practice medicine. We still use it in my family. And they have developed some hybrids for garden purposes. And you can go down to maybe a nursery or a garden shop, and you can purchase iwa iwa or maiden hair. But they're mainly hybrids. Which brings me to another point of discussion. Today, for those of us who study plants and medicinal properties of plants, today there are many hybrids or different varieties from the same plant. And so some are made to grow larger, bigger, higher. But with the incoming of the hybrid plant, the power of the medicinal property in it has been lost. And so you can't beat the originals. If you talk to Doc McClatchy and Kawika, who works here at Limahuli, he'll tell you that usually the original plant is very powerful. And so in our discussion, these are all originals. Some are native, some may be introduced with coming of the sailors and the schooners. But these are always with us here in our mountains, and we still use them today, those who know what the plants are. Another point of interest, now that we're here, Hawaiians believed a lot about the spirit of the herbs and the great spirit that comes from the heavens to help support them intuitively. And so we believe in the cognitive part of work, study, but also we believed in all of the Polynesians down the island chains, in our genealogies that were handed down. We also believe that the intuitive part of the mind and of the heart is very important. And so when we learn about herbs, we learn about pule, which is prayer. And so anytime we went into the mountains to gather herbs, there was always a prayer that was said. And so we balanced study with prayer. And if you were knowledgeable about, through study, about what this plant is and what it does, it was good. As far as using it, when to use it, why would you use it? Now comes the intuition. And through prayer, we are actually directed and are supported in our choices. And so with that, the Polynesian people always ask the question, well, if you're being guided by a higher divine source in your choice of medicines, as you go out and you look for these plants, and they're handed down to us through visions, dreams, foresight, and again intuition, going by the feel, then knowledge plus intuition would make you almost perfect in your choices. And so the Hawaiians did not believe in making mistakes. They said, mistakes? Well, how could you make a mistake if you were guided by a divine source? And the divine source who created everything never makes mistakes. And so if you took instruction or information from his hand, then why worry about, I wonder if what I'm going to use is a mistake. And so in that way, we can be called a little bit herbalists, those who love to be with plants. We're kind of like unorthodox, because today science does not deal with those things that are unorthodox. And when you bring the spirit in, that's unorthodox. They go by what they can see under the microscope. But we're unorthodox because we go into deep waters where you cannot see and where you cannot, as far as man is concerned, you need to go beyond the natural, normal eyesight. And so you must see with your heart, and that is important. It's something that you cannot learn in the classroom. And it's something that if you stick with crazy people like Dr. McClatchy, and some of the other doctors, they're at the department, and guys like us, we're kind of like free spirits. We don't give a damn about what people say. We're going to do it because we're part of this whole environment, and so we're there at the university. And we follow a few rules because it's under university requirements. But when you go out of the classroom, we're totally different. And so that's why for us the spirit is very important. And if you don't have the spirit, if you don't have it in your thoughts and in your speech, then the divine source or God will not be in your life. And so if it's not in your life, then you'll have no spiritual intuition or guidance that comes from another source to support you in all that you do. And so it's the same with the herbs. Hawaiians believed whether they went fishing or whether they planted a garden or even when they went to battle, they always pule, or they always prayed before they did anything. Because pule or prayer was the foundation of our life, our being. And so today, we also hope to restore that, to the students. It's good to be knowledgeable cognitively, but it's also good to be balanced intuitively, which comes from the spirit. And like I said, it's very difficult. There's a difference between when the Hawaiians went to teach or to train. They didn't have a classroom of students like we have at the university. They chose you and they picked you from a group. One, just one. Two if you were really lucky. And then they taught you. And so there's a difference between being taught and being trained. You're taught in a classroom situation. These are the facts. This is what you need to learn. Get it down in your notepads. Memorize it, whatever it is. But here, for we Polynesians, a classroom was the open environment, the mountains, the sea. And so we learned as we went, and we did it. We had to participate. We had to use our hands. We had to go mix it. We had to do it. And we found that when you did it, that was the training. You know, teaching came with the classroom. Training came, it's a bit closer now. And the practitioner, the teacher was right there with you. Do it this way, no, this way. And so you had specific training, hands-on. And that was the difference. And so that's how you became good. And today, that's part of this whole program of why we're here. Okay, here we are again, up at the Heiaus at the end of the road at KA Beach. And we're just in another location. This herb that we'd like to share with you is called the morning glory. And the Hawaiians call it the koali ava. There are two varieties. One, whenever the flower blooms early in the morning, the color is purple. And whenever it goes to sleep in the evening, it becomes pink. There's another one, if you notice the leaves on the koali plant, another variety. The leaves here look like a heart-shaped valentine. And on the other one, which is called the koali pehu, the leaves are bigger and they're longer, but they're kind of heart-shaped, a long heart-shaped leaf. And the flower is white. And that's called the koali pehu. This is the koali ava. Purple in the morning, pink in the evening. And the Hawaiians use this, and we use not only the leaves, but we use also the stems and the vines. So this is a creeper, and it crawls all over the place if you give it a chance. It's sort of like a pest if you don't know what it's used for, its medicinal properties. But to the Hawaiians, they just let it grow profusely. And so they take the leaves, the stems, the flowers, and the vines, and they crush it up into a poultice to be used for any kind of bone bruise, fracture, compound or simple fractures, flesh bruise, any kind of open wounds from the reef. If you happen to miss the wave and get scraped on the reefs, they use this plant, which always grew down at the beach. They use this plant, made it into a poultice, and they applied it directly to the wound, open wound, or to break in the skin, or a simple or compound fracture, after they kind of like set the bone. It'll take about 3 days to get a healing from this herb in its poultice form, if you're using it for a fracture. But it's very powerful, especially if you, after you apply it, if you maybe linger in the sun for about an hour or so. Something has to do with that ultraviolet rays that come from the sun, which helps to heal your wound very quickly. And so the Hawaiians were also familiar with the uses of the sun, and they use it to great advantage. And so they leave for all fractures and bone bruises, they leave the poultice on for a 24-hour period. The longer they left it on, the better the herb worked. It penetrates the skin, then down through the flesh, then to the bone. And so over a longer period of time, if you applied it, it would work much to your advantage if you left it on for a 24-hour period. Usually they went for about 3 applications, 3 24-hour periods. By the end of the 3rd application, you did it at the same time, going down of the sun, rising of the sun, whatever it is. you did it at the same time for 3 days, and then you'll affect the healing. Perfect healing. And usually, if your bone was fractured or it was broken, then reset. When it healed, the Hawaiians found that after the healing, that area became stronger than what it was before. Very strong. This herb is capable of healing flesh, bone, connective tissue, ligaments. It'll heal it all. We don't know how it, works, but there are chemicals in it that's really good. The Hawaiians knew about them, and so they put them to good use. And so again, Koaliava, great warrior. Okay, we're not at K anymore. We're at Limahuli Gardens, and Kawika is master chairperson for Limahuli, and so we've come to borrow some of the herbs that have been living here for quite some time. This one here in particular is again used by the Hawaiians. I'm not sure if it's endemic or exotic. Maybe Doc McClatchy can tell you more about that later. But just the same, we've been using it for, till the end of never. And this is called, in the mainland United States, it's called the goru kola. And here we call it the pohikula. So, if you pronounce it slowly, it has a resemblance, pohikula. And if you look at the herb, it's kind of roundish, a little rough on the margins, on the edges, and it's and right in the center, the way it's shaped, it's a creeper. It gets way bigger than this. This leaf, as far as diameter, it can be, I'd say, maybe 4 inches in diameter, maybe more. And it always has a V cut, one slit, one V cut in the leaf, and that's it. The rest is all connected. It's one big leaf, and it's round. The stems are much longer than this. Some of them at its full strength grow to about 8 inches in length. We use this plant for people who we call pupuli. Pupuli means a little bit of this. Those who are mentally handicapped, and anything to do with the brain. The Hawaiians always turn to this plant. It's very powerful. We use it either as a tea, or we use it, poultice form, or the blood of the plant directly. In other words, again, traditional, maybe 1 pint of water to 1 handful of this plant. We use everything from the plant, the leaf, the stem, the root system, everything. We just clean it, and then we pound it, and then we juice it, if that's the form we want to use. This pohikula is very, very powerful. It acts on the brain. It re-energizes your system through the brain. It stimulates the brain. It heals it. Especially, instead of going probably to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, or those who work with people who have mental deficiencies, Hawaiians use this instead, and it can affect a very good healing and cure. It's very good strong, powerful curative effects. I'm not sure if work has been done with this much here in Hawaii, probably on the mainland United States. They may have worked with this herb, but that's how we use it. We use it especially for the brain to re-energize and to heal any kind of illness, especially psychological problems. Depression, it's a great one. Depression, mental stress, pressure. That's when we use this herb. It has always worked, and we use it, you know, in its raw state, and that's what we found is the best type, the best kind of use to that we felt, or we feel, that is most beneficial. And we've been using it for years. I hope in the future, through this sharing the knowledge with you, through this class, or through this lecture, or you may be able to, use it sometimes in your life. Hopefully not on yourselves, but to helping others.